Hello friends, Spirit of Truth here, and I wanted to talk about Cern, spirits, and the sabotage that I talked about in previous videos. So, is Cern responsible for the Mandela effect? I don't know. I know there's good guys and bad guys, and the good guys have technology, and the bad guys have technology. And is Cern some of that technology that the bad guys have? I don't know. Could be. And it could be that they're using it in just the ways that people are talking about. It may be part of the sabotage, but my sense of it is that, like I said, the good guys have technology and the bad guys have technology, and Cern may very well be a part of the bad guy's technology. I don't know, but I do know, or I believe I do. I mean, what do any of us know, right? What I think I know is that there are certain people that are being affected by the Mandela effect that are being sabotaged, and this may be one form of the sabotage. I believe we've been knocked out of time and place, and I do know that there are factions and groups of people that are diligently working to right that, to set that back straight, and put us back where we're supposed to be. So, if you're like me and some of the others that have contacted me and had similar experiences, then perhaps you've experienced sabotage beyond the Mandela effect. And I believe the Mandela effect is sabotaging our families, our relationships, our lives, our credibility. It has, like I said, pulled us out of our time and place or space, however you want to put it. And some of the ways that it sabotages us is not only sometimes a feeling of, insecurity and instability, not knowing what's going on, which doesn't really affect me too much because, like I said, I've been through too much during my lifetime, and I'm kind of used to some of that. But another way that it sabotages us is in our family and relationships. One person has one memory of something and another person has a different memory. And then you can talk again later and those memories have changed yet again. I gave an example when I spoke to my sister about the heart and how we had a conversation, and then just a short time later in our second conversation, she did not remember the first conversation the way I did. And we both know about the Mandela effect. We both have talked about the sabotage that's coming against us, and that the Mandela effect may just be another part of that. Because some of it is, the being abducted and forced labor and all the things I've talked about in my previous videos. So all that is part of it, but then you have the Mandela effect part of it as well, where I believe what they've done is just like throw us out of our time and space so that the people that, or groups or factions that were trying to help, it was hoped they would be thrown off or slowed down or thrown off kilter or something, but it really didn't work. And so what I see happening now with it is kind of a back and forth, a tug of war a little bit, where people are pulling us off like they already did, and then others are trying to set it back right. So, and at the same time, I do believe that we individually and personally have a lot to do with what happens with the Mandela effect. I believe that we can guide and control our experience. And that's why I've said in previous videos to think on lovely things, because the more you do that, the less the sabotage works, And the more you are able to regain consciousness, memory, willpower, the ability to resist, and the ability to go to the space and time that you want to be in. And as we move to a place where a space and time where we want to be, the things that have held us bound previously, the things we've been bound by, begin to release and let go. They can't hold on any longer. So it's by becoming aware and resisting and understanding what's going on and being able to see clearly that we're able to kind of break free from the bondage of the Mandela effect, as well as the other forms of sabotage that we've been under. Now, I'm not really sure that everything about the Mandela effect is a sabotage. I do believe at least part of it, if not all of it, is actually the good guys trying to wrest us back away from the bad place that we were thrown into. And so it may very well be that the Mandela effect is a good thing because it's trying to undo what was done by Cern. So I don't know. Is it, is it Cern doing something bad and then another group, wresting us away from that, or something like that? I don't know, but those are my thoughts on the situation and how we may have been thrown out of our time and place, like I talked about in my last video about heart-centeredness, how we were thrown out of that state. But there's also other forms of sabotage going on for some of us that are Mandela affected, like, being kidnapped, being forced into labor, and about resisting that, which I talked about in a previous video. So we have that going on too. But there may be another level that I want to talk about that is something nobody else has talked about, and something that I've talked about extensively with my sister. One of the things I mentioned in my previous videos was that a lot of things had happened to me throughout my entire life. Some of those I am still not willing to share, but that's okay. Because some of it I am willing to share at this point. And part of that is that there was physical earth, real life sabotage going on in our family from a very early age. And my sister and I have looked at it and tried to identify those people, and we do have some ideas about it. But it was a very real physical life thing. How some experiences that happened to us just prior to and ever since our family was busted up by illness and divorce, which we both believe was sabotage against the whole family. And then there's this interesting thing about the sabotage that has kind of plagued our family throughout our lives, and I'm interested to see if anybody else has experienced this. And what that is every time our family seemed to kind of get it together, or get, on our feet a little bit, or get things going in a right direction, then something would come from left field just to slam us and cause traumas within the family, either from an outside source, or something would be done to one of us that would traumatize that person or the whole family. And so we would all be thrown off whatever we were doing, and whatever progress we had made, we would lose and would be dealing with whatever the situation was. And this phenomena of getting knocked down every time we became happy, or things began to move in a right direction in our lives, either all of us together or each one individually. It could happen to the whole family, or it could happen to an individual, where anytime that group or individual began to become happy, flourish, prosper, have things go right in their life, then some tragedy would just come out of nowhere. And it's not that I'm saying my own family hasn't done things to sabotage itself, which I think is another part of it as well, that they cause us to self-sabotage through illness, and I'll talk about that later too. But and I'll go into more detail in that later, but this sabotage would seem to come on to us to such a great degree that we had talked decades ago about certain members in the family who had been entrained, who had been thoroughly whipped, beaten, drugged, entranced, entrained, brainwashed, knocked down, whatever, thoroughly enough that they knew better than to get happy. And we in the family saw that and found it tragic. Like, we know this person will never be happy because they refuse to let that happen, because they're afraid that the minute they do, whatever little bit of stability or security they currently have will disappear and vanish, and things will be even worse than they started out. So the, I don't know, happiness meter was, did have a throttle on it, and it was governed, if not by others, then by the family members themselves. So I'm wondering if any of you have experienced that, sabotage in a family that just seemed extraordinary. And then I did mention spirits, so I guess my question on that is, have any of you had, interaction with other spirits? Now, I know a lot of you have. I know, my family's been gifted through generations where they had certain gifts and were able to do certain things, and sometimes one of those things would be seeing and speaking to either people who had passed on or angelic type spirits who comfort, guide, and console. So, or maybe some of you have even encountered and seen some negative spirits. I've had very limited exposure to that, because I try to keep myself, my mind, my spirit, my being, in a protected enough state and still enough, peaceful enough state, a high enough vibration, however you want to put it, that keeps me protected. But I have had some experience with that, and that may be what Cern is. I mean, people wonder about it like I did for a long time. I wondered, is this a psyop? Is this just a big mind game and a psyop? And certainly all of the internet stuff and all the Hollywood stuff and all the corporate stuff could be orchestrated intentionally, on purpose, by humans to confuse people. That is certainly true. But the question is, could these other things be a psyop? Like, personal things that are happening to people in their house? Well, some of it could. People have been being sneak and peeked by the government for years. I know I was at one time. And sometimes I still think it goes on. So could that be? Yes, it could. I mean, I don't know. But some of it seems certainly extremely unlikely that would be happening if this was just a psyop. Things that happen to someone personally in their own home that, maybe they're the only one that knows about it or something like that. There's just some of the things that are happening would be incredibly difficult, time-consuming, and just downright weird for them to do in order to convince people that something's going on, because we're already there. We already know it. So, like, what would be the point in some of the things that are going on if it was just a psyop? So, you know, could it be Cern? I don't know, I guess. Could it be a psyop? Maybe, but it would be a very, very complicated one. It would be, it's just phenomenal to me to think about what would have to be done for this to be a psyop based on the personal experiences that people are having. So then that leads me to, could this be a spiritual thing? Well, it could be. Could be a spiritual thing. Absolutely. I mean, if you're Christian, and I know other ancient texts and other religious texts say similar things, that God will do things that will amaze and confound the masses, and certainly the Mandela effect is amazing and confounding. Could it be the strong delusion that the Bible speaks of? I don't think so. I don't think the Mandela effect is the strong delusion. I think the strong delusion is all the brainwashing that happened before the Mandela effect, or during, since for me it started, you know, so many years ago, that it certainly could be a spiritual thing. And I want to talk about time and timelines at a future time, because I think this spiritual thing could tie into that. But out of all the explanations that have been reached for, you know, is it just time travel? Is it that, you know, people have been doing time travel for some time now, and it has so profoundly changed things because of all the time travel that we're now noticing those changes? Now, to me, that's a very plausible explanation, is that time travel has disturbed the timeline, and so people are noticing those changes. And the other one that seems to have the most legs with me is spiritual warfare. Now, Cern being involved in that, and human sabotage being involved in that, I believe could be plausible. That it could be a spiritual warfare that, as the Bible says, is fought down here on earth as it is in heaven. So, you know, maybe it's a spiritual battle that's happening in the spiritual world as well as the physical world. That could be, and Cern could be, technology that's used by the other side. You know, and the good guys may have some type similar technology that is now pulling us back, because I think we were pulled away for a time and now we're going back. So, to me, out of Cern and PSYOP and time travel and all the other things, you know, everybody dying in 2012, out of all of those theories, the ones that have the most teeth for me are that this is a spiritual battle that's playing out in the spiritual world and the physical world, and Cern may be a part of it, and the sabotage may be a part of it, and the psyops may be a part of it, but I just can't see anything else that makes sense other than spiritual warfare and sabotage in the spiritual world and in the physical world. So, if that makes any sense to anybody else, please comment on it, because out of everything I've looked at, this is, you know, intentional done sabotage and spiritual warfare seem to be part of the same thing, and that seems to be what's going on to me. Whether Cern or anything else is involved, you know, everything that I've mentioned in my past videos, I think, is involved. The My Labs, testing on us, even sickness, I'm going to go into in a future video, talking just only about illness with the Mandela affected, because I think that's a component of the sabotage. which again, I think all is spiritual warfare. And I do know that there are individuals here that are helping on the right side of this conflict. And so, it only makes sense that guys on both sides have tools and they're using them. So let me know what you think about all that stuff. And, I'm just trying to figure it out like anybody else. So I'm throwing my ideas out there. I know that before, when I spoke about the word business, it's really strange. But here again, the Mandela effect, right? It's really strange that the first time I realized that was happening to people today, I must have been in another verse, because there was a video from a guy, and I've looked for his picture. He was a young, good-looking, black male, very clean cut kind of guy who, had a good energy to him, and he was talking about the spelling of the word business, and I was shocked that somebody else had seen that effect, but they saw it today when I saw it when I was 8 years old. So that was strange to me, but I've gone back and I've tried to find his video so that I could show it, and it's gone. So maybe wherever I'm at, y'all haven't experienced a change with the word business, and you all think I'm crazy. But if any of you have experienced that effect, now that we're talking about it, if any of you have experienced that effect of the spellings of words, in particular the word business, let me know, because I can't find that guy's video. I haven't seen anybody else talk about it, and I don't know if anybody else has gone through that particular one. There seem to be several that I have either found or gone through that others don't seem to, or at least haven't spoken about. So that's one of the reasons that I started doing my videos, is because somebody else's video confirmed for me that, yes, what I saw wasn't just exclusive to me only. It had happened to other people as well. So, if any of you have experienced that thing with the word business, let me know. And of course, let me know your thoughts on what I've said in this video. And if any of that tracks with you or jogs anything in your memories or makes sense to you, or you've had any of this similar experiences, please let me know, because I think by discussing this and us all putting it all out there, we're going to be able to fit together the pieces of this puzzle. And it's not going to be solved by just talking about, what happened in the movie or logo changes or anything like that. Although those are important to notice, because it gives us a clue as to what direction this thing is moving in. And, I've stated in a previous video about the biblical changes, how certainly those do not seem to be moving in a good direction. The Bible changes have been just disgusting. But there are some things about the whole Bible thing that were going on for me before as well. So anyway, to my thinking, there's, there is a spiritual warfare. There's good guys and bad guys, and there's multiple factions of each that are doing all kinds of things right now. And if any of you have experienced any of the same kinds of things that I have, please let me know, because this is how we're going to put it together and figure out what exactly is going on. Not that it would even matter in the end. You know what? Because I think about that all the time, that it just doesn't matter in the end, because we're going where we're going. And people choose, I believe, where they're going. If you have been victimized by this, I don't think that's going to be held against you in any kind of spiritual account. So, I know a lot of people that have been made ill by testing that was done on them and different things like that, and that illness led to bad behavior. And I don't think that those things, if you're poisoned and you act out, who can hold that against you? So I don't think that's anything for anybody to worry about. Like, if we've done things because of illness, because I've certainly done things because I was ill, snapped at people, or been ugly or whatever, and certainly there's people that have done way worse because of illness, and I don't think we can hold those people responsible when they were poisoned. But that leads into a whole nother subject of forgiveness and spiritual growth and ascension and who's who and what's what, that maybe we'll get into later if people want to hear that. But anyway, I think by us comparing stories and really talking about what's going on at a deeper level than logos and movies is how we're going to figure out what's going on. So I hope you guys will join in with me and we can share with each other our experiences, and that gives us strength and confidence in our own experiences and memories, and I think can help us sort out what's been going on and how long and our own experiences. So, let me know what you think about this stuff. And, of course, hit the like button if you can. Subscribe and share, and let's all compare notes and see what kind of real things we can come up with that may be going on here, aside from the surface appearances. Okay, so I hope you'll comment, and thanks so much for tuning in again.